Today, I want to share with you how hitting record with 0 listeners made me a better podcaster. Welcome to Podnovation podcast. I'm Wisdom, and thank you for listening. You see, I had this mindset that how am I going to grow the show? How am I going to publish and make sure that I get guests and all that? But what I realized was that all those things they are there as issues. They're there. So I'm not going to say that those things are not there in my head. But the problem was that those things were not the problem. The problem was my attitude towards it. The problem was that I had issues I needed to come in terms with. I needed to be comfortable with showing up, putting myself out there, recording episodes, sharing my work. I needed to be comfortable with sounding terrible. Now I know that sounds like, what do you mean sounding terrible and all that? I needed to be comfortable with doing with what I have, with creating with what I have. You see, a lot of us, we have this mindset that it is either 100% or 0%. No, I'm not going to. If I can't have a studio quality, full production, listeners and 100,000 listeners listen to my show, I'm not going to release a show. But the thing is that we absolutely want to release a show. We absolutely want to release one. And so for me, what did I learn? First of all, I became better at showing up, right? I became better. Let me break it down for you. I realized that asking is my work. Rejection is not my work. Okay, what do I mean? I'll share something with you. Before I started doing podcasts, before I started pressing record and hitting and interviewing guests and getting guests out, the platform I get guests from is on the link in the show notes, so you can go check it out. Before I started getting guests, right, I believed that nobody's going to accept my show. I reach out to just a couple of them and say, well, of course this person didn't reach out to me and all that. But what I later realized one day while I was taking a walk was that I was rejecting myself even before anyone else did. And so for most of you us listening, most of you, not most of you, you've rejected yourself before you even put the work out there. So before you even start your podcast, you're like, nobody's going to listen to my podcast, so I'm not going to start the podcast. You've rejected yourself. This business I'm going to start, the business is not going to make sense. You rejected yourself. So we reject ourselves a lot of times. We have these crazy ideas that we're passionate about, that we want to do, but we don't do it because we're like, it will make sense. It doesn't, like it's crazy, it's stupid, it's all those stuff. So we rejected ourselves. Rejection should be left for those whose work is to reject people. That's not our job. Our job is to do what we want to do. My job is to ask you. So if I reach out to you and I'm like, I would really love to be a guest on my podcast, that's my job, is to ask you. That's me. I probably follow up, right? That's my job. Your job is to say yes or no, right? And yes or no. I would love to be on show. Yes. I don't like to be on show. No. So it got me comfortable with asking people, because guess what happened when I started asking people and they would respond and say yes. I was like, wow, so people do say yes. So I can get guests on my podcast. And some of these guests I got on my podcast are OGs of the industry, right? I don't even know them before. I messaged them, they accepted to be on my podcast, and then I checked out the profile and I realized that, wow, this person's there, like, wow, the big time. They're the timber and caliber in the industry. Wow, I am not aware of that. And I just don't know. It's just like you message someone, of course they're not quote celebrity in the mainstream, but like in the industry, right? In the podcasting industry, they're celebrities. In some of other industry, they're celebrities, right? They're thought leaders. Like, that's the word I'll use, not celebrities, thought leaders, right? So that's our own version of celebrities for the education and the learning space, thought leaders. And I'll message them and they say yes. And they'll show up on the interview and I'll record the interview and they'll share their story. And that's when I was a beginner podcast. I didn't have any shows under my belt. I didn't have episodes under my belt. I did not have ton of downloads. What do I mean by ton of downloads? When I say ton of downloads, you think I have downloads? I did not have downloads. Yeah, let's just be honest. I didn't have downloads. So the fact that they say yes to me meant a lot to me. It unlocked the fact that, yeah, you could get the possibility of getting more yes is high if you ask more, right? If I tell you that there's a 40% chance that people will say yes to you, what does that mean? Maybe when you start messaging, the first 60%, that's what you get. It's probability. Nobody says yes. What about the 40%? You're like, I'm just going to stop at 60. But you have to message 40% more in order to get a yes, right? And so I messaged them, and because I was getting interviews back to back, and now it has put me in a frame of mind that outside the platform that I use for getting guests, I am now comfortable with reaching out to people, messaging them, and asking them to be a guest on my podcast. And it's not just, oh, I am now comfortable. I did reach out. I had another, because right now I have about 7 podcasts. I had another podcast, right? That is not on this platform that I used to getting guests. And if you're interested in knowing the platform I used for getting guests, you can check the link in the show notes. It's not on the platform I used for getting guests, but I just went to a niche community. I was able to find a way to craft the message, and I got persons to say, yeah, sure, I would love to be a guest on your podcast. And I have been successfully able to interview 3 different persons, not book time, interview 3. Now I have about 2 that's the book time, and we've not, the time hasn't yet come for us to do the interview. So if we do those remaining 2, that will be 5. And this was just a simple message and stuff like that. So I realized that the problem was that by not pressing hit record, by not showing up, I was limiting myself. I was the problem all along, right? Now, by hitting record, without downloads, with 0 listens, with nobody there, what has that done for me? It has put me in a frame of mind to make it be a journey of improvement. To realize that, dude, you don't quite know what you're doing. Just calm down. You're not really that good at what you're doing yet, but you can be better. And how do you become better? By doing it and doing more of it, and looking at it and reviewing, doing more of it and reviewing. And I look at, when I listen to some of my episodes, I'm like, oh, these are so terrible. But I'm like, the thing different about podcasting versus all other forms of work that you do, like writing a book, right? If you were to write a book, you write 5, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 drafts, depending on the number of drafts it takes you to get the final draft. And that happens in private. You're writing your book, you're doing your stuff every day, and eventually when the final version is ready, you're like, okay, my book is ready, you can go check it on Amazon, it has been published and all that. And people go check the book and they're like, oh, it's a fantastic book, it's a very interesting book, we love the book. Nice. But it took you 8 iterations, it took you 9 iterations to get that final copy. But with podcasting, you're building in public, you're learning in public, you're putting your first draft in public, your second draft in public, your third draft in public, your fourth draft in public, over a series of months, years. Eventually, you have the final draft. And yeah, it's not like you have the quote final draft. You're still improving, but it's out there, and the people listen to you like, oh, I can't believe she's so articulate, the way she speaks, the way she asks questions, the way she expresses herself, the way he says everything, and all those things. Oh wow, this guy is a really good podcaster. I wish I could be a podcaster like him, right? So that for me, by pressing record, it allowed me to deal with my own self-doubt, with my own fears, in terms of content creation, in terms of showing up, in terms of asking, in terms of reaching out to people and asking, and that, oh, I'd love to interview you, I'd love to have you on my podcast and ask you a couple of questions regarding this industry and all that. And that for me has unlocked my space, my eyes to see the things that I have not seen before. And now I look around and like, I have the opportunity, I have the tools I need to do what I need to do right now. What will I do with it? How can I do what I need to do? Right? Because the things I don't have, there's so many. I could keep listing them for you. But now I'm focused on what I have. And so by pressing record, that has changed the game for me. And now I show up, and now people look back and see my backlogs and they're like, oh, I'm a podcaster, which is one. Oh, I'm a podcaster. And the other thing is that for my own self, right? For my own self, by showing up, I'll give an example. By showing up and recording the podcast, it has made me more confident. What do you mean? You're just making this episode long and too long. I'll explain what I mean. It's very simple. Confidence comes from evidence. And I know people tell you that fake you till you believe it. Nah, stop that nonsense. Confidence comes from what? Evidence. Have you heard of big time celebrities and tell you that they felt anxious, they felt nervous even before they showed up to perform, to do what they needed to do, like musicians and all that? And you're like, but you guys are big time guys, A-list actors and all that. Why would you feel nervous? Like, that's for we that are just the laymen and the beginners and the JJC, the Johnny Just Come, and the novices and all that. But they feel that way. But yes, the difference between them and you, the difference between them, the speakers and all those public speakers that have been speaking, that have given 500 talks, 600 talks, 1,000 talks over the course of their life, and versus you, that this is your first attempt at speaking on a public platform, is they have immeasurable evidence that speaks otherwise to the self-doubt, to the fear, to the nervousness that they might have. And so the funny thing is that the only way to build the evidence is to do it scared. That's the strange thing. So like, oh, I speaking a podcast, I can't really speak that well. I'm not really eloquent. I don't really know what I'm saying. The only way you build evidence is by doing it anyway. And so right now there are days where I'm about to show up for an interview. I'm like, oh, what would the guests? I'm anxious. I'm like, oh, what would the guests? What would the interview be like? What would the guests say? What if they don't do this? And then I just smile and I look at myself and I smile and I laugh and I laugh and I laugh and I smile. And you know how you have a the neighbor or someone who's just talking spoil and talking trash, and you just look at them and you maintain eye contact and you're like, shut up. Yeah, because now there is evidence, right? It's like it's trust. Like if someone comes up to you and tells you that, oh, this is this is this is this is this this is this person is this, and you're like, no, this the evidence says otherwise, right? And so the more interviews, I've recorded over 300 interviews now, I have the evidence that this stuff is not as hard as my mind makes me think it is. Perception is reality, and that is what we perceive is our own reality, is what we think to be true and what we see to be true, what we believe to be true. Now, it doesn't mean that that's what is true, right? But what we see, the way we perceive things, that is how we consider things to be true. And so, because I have this immeasurable evidence by brute forcing and having, of course, I'm not saying you should brute force, but what I'm saying is get started and just keep showing up. Now, you would suck for the first 1 week, first 2 weeks, first 3 months, first 6 months. You would not even know what you're doing. You might not even get any listens, but you will show up and you will have immeasurable evidence that you're a podcaster. And so now that I reach out to people and I'm like, oh, I'd love for you to be on a podcast, people are like, yeah, they look at it, you're pretty established in the space. I love what you're doing. And I'm like, when I started, I didn't know what I was doing. And I'm still figuring things out. But by pressing record, even with regardless of the numbers, and realizing that this is a self-improvement journey that I need to go on, change the game for me. And so if you love to check out the podcast guesting platform that really helped me to get a lot of guests without a ton of the rejections like I did get before I joined the platform, I'll put the link in the description and you can check out the platform. Thank you for listening to Podnovation, and I'll see you in the next episode.